Good evening, folks. We'd like to welcome you all, fellow Scouters, on behalf of Scout Ireland. We'd like to welcome you all to our webinar. This session will be for 1 hour long. So my own name is Noel Leahy. I'm a Scouter with the 27th Caravan, just outside Loughrea, County Galway. It's a grand spot in Galway East, the foothills of the Slieve Mountains. So what are we going to do tonight? I suppose the purpose of our webinar tonight is to chat to fellow Scouters of how they scouted through Covid-19, the different steps taken by the group, and how they instill positivity and confidence in the parents and in our Scouters. I suppose tonight it's a bit like, if we think about it, it's a bit like a campfire on the last night of a camp. We're all sitting around the campfire, the embers are glowing. It's a grand clear night and the spirits are high. It's marshmallow time, s'mores are on. And I suppose the one thing at the back of all the adults' mind, will it be dry tomorrow morning to take down the tents and get them home dry? That's always a thought, and I suppose, and on with the stories, we'll go back to, and it's all about storytelling, it's all about singing songs. We might have any singers tonight, but we definitely have 4 excellent storytellers. So our storytellers tonight, first up is David Walsh from Louth. We have Amy McCrickerd from Armagh in the north, Joe Mahony from Galway, and last but not least, we have Dan O'Leary from Wexford. And they'll introduce themselves in a bit more detail as they come on to chat with you. My backroom team tonight again is Patsy Kelly on the Q&A, and James Fox is doing support as stage manager tonight. So thank you all, guys, and again thanks to all the Scouters for coming on to share their stories. We have a Q&A session, I suppose, within our webinar tonight. There's for the attendees, we have a Q&A session. So the questions to the Scouters will be directed by the Q&A button. So there's a Q&A button there on the bottom bar. Just click that button and type in your question there. If you have a question directly at one of the presenters or one of the Scouters, just put their name in first. And as David said earlier on, David Walsh, we were just discussing, as David said, put in my name. Yeah, I'm sure we can refer it to Dan, or he'll answer them all. So yeah, it'll be something like that. We'll have a bit of fun. It's going to be light-hearted, and we'll have a chat. So I'll hand you over to David, our first Scouter here tonight. So pull into the campfire there, David, and don't get caught up in the smoke, and over to you.
Thanks very much, Noel. So David Walsh is my name. I'm the County Commissioner with Louth Scout County, and I'm also a Venture Scout leader in St Oliver's 3rd, 4th, 6th Loud Scouts in Drogheda. So I guess, look, what we're doing here is looking to talk about what our experience has been over the course of, I suppose, 2 lockdowns, or 1 lockdown and then 1 set of serious restrictions. What we did first and foremost from the outset as a county, I'll talk for the county first and then we'll talk about in my own group. But from a county perspective, we immediately set up or established a Scouting During COVID task force, which was made up of all of the group leaders from across the county. And what we really did there was we just came together and we decided that we'd work together on a weekly basis. We'd have a Zoom meeting where we'd kind of share practice, share ideas, get advice from each other, help out each other, offer our thoughts, and maybe kind of just road test some ideas before maybe implementing them. There was a couple of reasons for that, and I suppose uppermost in my mind as County Commissioner was to bring everyone together and use it as an opportunity to build a cohesive approach across the county, and that's exactly what we were able to do. We took part in a number of the Scouting Ireland initiatives, including I think there was the Beavers and the Cubs were sending cards to the elderly care homes. We had a number of other initiatives that were taking place in terms of laptops for students and so on. As part of that, we were able to coordinate and really coordinate from the outset the community call initiative, and that was done across the county basis in association with the county council. And it was through those links that we were able to really respond on the ground to what was required of us in each of our communities around the county. We were also, from a county perspective, coordinated by our county council in respect to the critical initiative that the county council were running, and that was pertaining to organising collection points for the local women's refuge centres. So look, the real, I guess, challenge was that the doors were shut and we were all kind of looking around saying, what are we going to do? And we felt the best way to do it was to come together and figure it out ourselves by sharing ideas and practice and so on. So that's what we did at a county level. And that filtered down into each group. So in our own group, we also formed a COVID committee, and we met on a regular basis. We set up a WhatsApp group and we were communicating pretty much, ad hocly, but on a non-stop basis through that, but also on a weekly Zoom as well. I suppose we all became pretty adept at Zoom meetings and so on, and setting up Zoom meetings. We were all working off free accounts that lasted for 40 minutes. So we established Beaver, Cubs, Scouts, Venture meetings online, and they took place on a weekly basis. And we were really keen in our group not to miss a beat and not to miss any weeks, and to really kind of, put the best foot forward. And that's what we did in establishing weekly online meetings. And those weekly online meetings took the form of Zoom meetings up to 40 minutes, then a break, then same link to go back in and do continue the meeting. We had various challenges. We had weekly cooking challenges and scavenger hunts and all kinds of different things going on, and arts and crafts and home pioneering challenges and so on. We ran activities, virtual camps, where we had our scouts camping at home, and through the parents WhatsApp group, we were sending hourly challenges for the scouts to complete as part of their weekend camp that took place and so on. So there's loads of different initiatives that we were able to get on board with. We ran as a group a weekly Kahoot meeting. So Kahoot.com is a website for creating quizzes and online quizzes and so on. It was a great way for us to, I suppose, rally the troops in terms of getting that communications going with parents and so on. And we had huge kind of buy into that on a weekly basis. So from those family quizzes that we ran and hosted on our group's Facebook page. So it was really, look, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't as good an experience, of course, as coming down to the weekly meetings to the scout down and so on. But it was as good as we felt we could do at the time. At the moment, with the restrictions reduced, we're able to do some activities with our younger sections in their pods. Our scouts are meeting in groups of up to 15 outdoors. Our ventures are meeting once a week, but they're coming down in crews. So we've established various crews of up to 6 ventures, and they're coming down, and we have different venture crews arriving at different times in our scout den on a given night, and we're zooming from one room to the next and so on. So each crew gets to kind of that face-to-face interactive experience of venturing, but we're doing it in a very controlled, safe environment and coordinated through breakout rooms using Zoom. So that's the way we're operating currently, given the current restrictions. We've lots of different activities and initiatives that our ventures are running at the moment. They're doing, first of all, they're doing a couple of fundraising things. First up is they have a last man standing competition that's being run via email. So that's a great way of reaching out electronically to do a bit of fundraising. From a group perspective, all of our members have been given 1 or 2 books of 12 Days of Christmas tickets to sell, so that maybe the Scouts and Venture Scouts will sell them to their friends in school, while their parents might, where possible, sell them to their colleagues at work or family or extended families and so on. We're also selling as a group 12 Days of Christmas tickets online. So we've created an idonate.ie account, and we're doing it through that. Our ventures are also running a virtual quiz, or planning to run a virtual quiz, and are hosting that via Eventbrite, and that's going to be a fundraising quiz for the Venture Scout group. So yeah, look, as a group, as individuals, program sections within the group, we're getting on with things as best we can, and we are getting out and about and doing activities, but as I say, in that very controlled way. So look, happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks for that, David. We, and I think from listening to you there, getting involved in local initiatives was probably something very strong within the group there, and something that was really key to keeping the group going for you. Would that be kind of where your main focus came from at the start? Yeah, certainly.
And look, in the first instance, when we were in the first lockdown and there was no kind of youth members involved, it was a great way to keep our adult volunteers busy, keep them occupied, keep them, challenged as well. I mean, we took on some really great challenges. One that springs to mind is we did a complete garden makeover as part of the community call. We received a call to cut someone's grass, and the garden was like really was like a jungle. So that was one that took us quite some time, but it was a great project really to get our teeth into and keep people taking over, you know.
Just, yeah, super stuff. And I think that was the key thing about keeping people taking over and keeping the flag flying when it was going. And well done on the 12 Days of Christmas initiative. It's a very good idea. So thanks for that, David, and well done. And on to our next speaker, or next person to bring in around the campfire tonight. We have Amy McCrickerd, all the way from Armagh. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correct, Amy. Please feel free to correct me. So over to you, Amy.
Thanks, Noel. Yes, my name is Amy McCrickerd, so well done. I'm the group leader for 7th Dromore Craigavon in the county of Branbury in Armagh. And unlike some of the other groups, we're not very technical. So apologies if anything goes wrong. When we shut down in March for the first lockdown, we thought it was for 2 weeks. So we sent all the kids home, said, see you in 2 weeks, and then realised that that wasn't going to happen and had a little bit of a panic because we have a small group. It's nearly all families, friends, it's very local, and we just didn't want to see the kids go without. So almost immediately I decided to start an at-home scouting initiative, not online, but via WhatsApp. So we did a 14-week challenge and we focused on the special interest badges because I could basically make up a program. So for the physical badge, we asked the kids, Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, Benchers and Rovers, set to do 3, 4, 5 items from the list, and we sent them do Joe Wicks for a week on YouTube, learn to do yoga, do your 30-minute walk, different things, the environment. We got creative with that. We asked the kids to clean their local environment, their rooms, tidy their rooms for mums and dads. That one was very popular. Clean a shared space, clean the kitchen, clean your garden. We didn't want to encourage anybody to go out. We didn't want to encourage anybody to take risks. So it was very silly things, but it worked really well for our group. We had about 95% of beaver tenants. There was the odd child 1 week or the other, but nearly 100% every week take part. We had about 50% across the rest, which for older kids is pretty good. When it wasn't working so well with the old groups, we reached out to parents. I asked them why they weren't joining in, and it was the kids didn't always want to, that schoolwork, the things. So we linked up with other groups in the north, and we did a STEM challenge with Oma and Dungannon, or Downpatrick, sorry, and they got a special STEM badge. We linked up with the Scout Foundation Northern Ireland, who did 3 challenges at home, a hiking challenge once you were allowed out, a photography challenge and a water challenge. So our kids were able to earn their special interest badges, they were able to earn STEM badges, they were able to earn special badges, and we took part in the Great Britain, because we're in the north of Ireland, stay-at-home camp. So there was 250,000 people took part, I believe, across Britain. And they got a special badge for that, and we camped at home and we took pictures. We encouraged parents, kids to make a camp out of sheets if you had no tents at home. Camp, be a scout. If you've got a barbecue, make s'mores. If you don't, microwave them. You know, we sent a list of tasks and the kids loved it. We WhatsApped. The older ones we did eventually get into Zoom, and it went really well. We did Zoom table quizzes, we did Zoom bake-offs where we dropped the ingredients on the door and left, so there was no contact, and then 3 days later they all baked at home at the same time with the same ingredients. So we really did try as much as possible to do fun things and just to keep them busy, not necessarily always scouting. We did try pioneering, build a raft and float it in a basin, but it was mostly just keep the kids involved, keep the parents involved, keep everybody on board, and sort of be a positive light when it was very scary. When we were allowed back outside very recently, we started with our rover group and we started hiking, and we went rovers, ventures, scouts, cubs. We didn't dare take the beavers. We're not certain that we could get them to social distance. So we are now back face-to-face meetings with our local government guidelines, and it's going very well. It's hard to keep the social distancing, but because they have been so used, we never stopped. We have never stopped from March. They came back, they accepted the new rules, and we are trying our best to do a new program. So there's no contact games. Everything's in their sixers, in their lodges, in their patrols. But so far for us, it's been an incredibly steep learning curve, but it's not been a bad experience. It's been a positive experience for our group. It has really helped us grow and change our program, which is not a bad idea. We've really got some new ideas. We've been forced to get some new ideas, and it's gone very well.
Well done, Amy. That's fantastic. And I suppose just reflecting on what you were saying there, you know, a lot of it is going back to that, you know, you went back to simple scouting, basic simple scouting. You know, you'll use your adventure, you'd use the special interest badges as a key to motivate and keep the kids going here. And I suppose you're coming from both sides of the, you know, within the north, and you're working within 2 jurisdictions. Did you find that as an extra challenge? And I suppose the second part of that question, did you find you had to do a lot of work in motivating the scouters and the adults themselves to, you know, to carry on scouting?
Yes, to the first bit. It can be difficult for us in the north to understand, because we're getting guidance from Scouting Ireland, and we're not. We have different guidelines, but our Scout Foundation office in Belfast are being fantastic. They email every week, said this is what you can do this week, and it changes every week up here. Last week we weren't allowed, well, 2 or 3 weeks ago we were not allowed indoors. Now we must go indoors. It changes. So that has been difficult to keep people motivated, because the goalposts keep changing. It has been difficult because I need to keep updating my scouters. I need to keep updating the parents so they can make an informed decision whether to send their children. And it can be difficult to get scouters to maybe, not to get them, but to get them on board to agree to do, we want to go in the car park and build shelters, but that means scouters arriving earlier, putting shelters up, taking them down. It's more work for volunteers, and sometimes it has been. We haven't lost any scouters, thankfully. We've actually got 2 new scouters, and our group has grown in this period, but it can be difficult, no, yes, with things changing and being in 2 jurisdictions, it can be a little bit difficult to make sure we're doing everything correctly.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Well done. And it's fantastic to hear your story. So rolling on from Amy, our next scouter up into the campfire. I'll throw a few news, a bit of kindling in the fire there to keep Joe going. You might get cold, the poor man from Galway. So we have Joe Mahony from Rinmore, a good, solid, strong group in my own province here. So Joe, over to you. Pop into the fire there.
Thank you very much, Noel. Just in case nobody knows who I am, Joe Mahony is my name, and I'm the group leader with 13 Galway Scouts, and I'm also the Scout section lead as well. So I suppose our experience was, we all have different experiences, I suppose, when this kind of pandemic hit and how we dealt with it. Like some people used a whole group system to work something. We took each section individually, I suppose. I held meetings with our Beaver section leads, because we have 2 Beaver sections, we have 2 Scouts or 2 Cub sections and all that. So we kind of dealt with them all differently, I suppose. Our Beavers, they went really using the Western Province Stepping Up program, and they got quite some of the highest engagement in the province from their Beavers. They didn't feel comfortable doing Zoom with Beavers and all that, so that was their way of dealing with it, I suppose. And I suppose in some ways we all thought it was going to be a short lockdown, and then it developed into 4 and 5 months later or whatever it was like. But the Cubs, I suppose, when the pathway back to scouting and all that came out, that kind of gave us a bit more clarity as to what we could do. And then the Cubs would have initially went on Zoom and did their Zoom meetings and everything, but then when the pathway came out, they were able to get outdoors, following the different dates and how many could meet up and all of that type of it. The Scout section, we were kind of planning nearly a week or 2 before lockdown actually hit. We stopped the meetings, I think the week before lockdown was officially kind of announced, and we went on Zoom literally the first Friday because we hold our Zoom meeting, and I suppose the first meeting was a bit of a free-for-all. But we figured it out fairly quickly that our meetings on Zoom should have a structure very similar to a Scout meeting, a start to finish, like your prayer, your promise, all that kind of stuff. We set it up in such a way that we did the start of the meeting. We issued challenges and stuff that they would go away with on the Friday and come back the next Friday, and then part of our meeting was reviewing the challenge that they were given to do during the week. Like the first lockdown was different than the second one. Like what some people kind of forget is like the first lockdown, they had nothing in some ways, like because they had no school, they had no interaction at all. Like so, like we felt that what we provided at that point anyway was like it was really probably the only positive social interaction they were getting. So yeah, they bought into all the challenges. Like we probably had 95% attendance at our Zoom meetings. Same with Cubs as well. Like they had a high attendance. Adventures as well went to Zoom. And I suppose when the pathway came out, then we got out. We felt that so long as we followed all the protocols and all the safety measures, that we could do what we wanted to do and get out. We have the Scout den ourselves, so we're lucky we're in a position where we have our own den. So we had indoor meetings as well, obviously within the different guidelines and everything. We managed in Scouts to have 4, maybe 5 camps. That was a little bit of a logistical nightmare in some ways, because obviously you can't put up an Icelandic anymore. You're talking about 2-man tents. We had an annual camp, a joint annual camp, Scouts and Ventures. We had 35 on the camp, 35 individual tents in the field, and it worked really well. So I suppose that's what we did, and then coming back we ran right through the summer. I felt, and most of the Scouters felt, that if we ran through the summer, we were kind of making up for any lost time that they had. And we, as a group, we kind of came to the decision that we were going to extend our Scout year to the end of September, rather than like normally kind of finish in August time or July. We extended it to the end of September. So all the sections came back in September, including Beavers, went into meetings. I suppose the 5-level system made it a little bit, we were able to plan better when we saw the different levels. It got a little bit confusing, I suppose, for some in the middle of it, when we went from sort of 2 to 3 and then 4. And there was a lot of when you look at the government guidelines and then you look at our guidelines, they kind of didn't marry up, as people would say. And I was in a group leader kind of WhatsApp group, and we were, I suppose, trying to get communication out to people as to why we were able to still Scout, even though at level 3 government guidelines were telling us that, oh, you can't, or you can't have meetings indoors. So I suppose one group leader in Galway highlighted the fact that the government guidelines were top line guidelines, that we were actually under the Department of Youth and Children and Youth Affairs. So their guidelines were obviously different. So that meant 15 in our den inside and stuff like that. So I suppose the big thing for us was communication, getting the message out to parents and to the Scouters that this is how we operate. We're well within the guidelines and everything, because it was a little bit confusing when they'd see the top lines and then they'd see what we were operating in. So I suppose that was clear communication. I think even going forward is going to be key with all, and setting up a set of protocols and systems that are the same no matter what section you're in. So like we temperature check Scouts coming into the den, stuff like that, and we just rolled that out. We came up with a system that was the same for every section, no matter which section they were in. Obviously mask wearing, but then the younger ones can't or not obliged to wear them. And I suppose that was really everything like that we did. I suppose like some people see Scouts as a hobby. I see it as an awful lot more like, and that getting that message across to the parents and everything, and to the Scouters as well. And there was no forcing our Scouters to come back or anything like that. We probably lost a couple of Scouters. We didn't lose Scouts, but we probably lost a couple of Scouters. We gained a few, but the few that we lost were medical reasons. They weren't that they didn't want to be there, and that's really what we did. We're just waiting for obviously a change in the level, and we'll get back to basically indoor and outdoor meetings. And I suppose the concentration will be outdoor to some degree, but if we can be indoors, we'll be indoors in the more worse weather that we have, and that's really all we did, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Well done. And you know, again, it's amazing, and well done in keeping all your sections rolling there. You know, to get the Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, the whole lot, and particularly to get camping. I think camping this year under the current situation with the guidelines took a lot of work and a lot of planning to get that happen. And I agree with you, trying to work within the guidelines. They are quite confusing, you know, and we've only one set of guidelines. You know, you poor old Amy in the north, and she's trying to deal with both sides of the fence here. So you know, it's a different challenge for everyone. But I think for you, and listening to what you're saying, Joe, you know, the communication with your parents and the constant communicating with your fellow Scouters was probably key to you keeping the whole thing going. Would that be a kind of fair comment?
Oh, without a doubt, like, and there's a lot of positivity out there for Scouting. Like, there's a lot of the public, not just parents. Like, the amount of positive messages I got right throughout the summer. Thanks very much for doing this. And some of the stories even that the parents were giving back to us of what we had kind of, I suppose, helped their children through the first lockdown, and even getting them out camping and everything. There's huge positivity out there. And even when we did sort of day activities, we did a Monopoly run, and like you were telling, like, the logistics of trying to do a Monopoly run in on the I think when the first time we could come out, and it was 6 outdoors, I think it was, like, and you're telling them to come every 15 minutes and this 4 going, but like, yeah, it was, yeah. But like, random people in the street were coming up and they were saying it's great to see you guys out, yeah, and everything. So
fair play to Joe. Well done. And I suppose the other side of it, it's just a bit of feedback coming in there, guys. You might just mute. Okay, I suppose, is that me that's muted, or who's muted there, guys? I'm not sure. I suppose the one great element for you was being able to, I suppose, the communication, the camp, and you have a lovely area there across from your hall as well. That a big open area there that you can get a lot of work done outside. So well done on that, guys. So our last but not least speaker tonight is the one and only Dan O'Leary. Dan O'Hale's from Wexford. So Dan, pull in a chair, come into the campfire and tell your story. Over to you, Dan.
Thanks very much, Noel. My name is Dan O'Leary. I'm a Scout section scouter with the 13th Wexford group. All our sections normally meet on a Saturday morning at our local community centre, which has basically been unavailable to us since last March. I'm going to be speaking specifically about our Scout section, but I know our other sections all follow the same kind of formats and safety protocols. Basically, from the get-go, all our sections were determined to keep going as best as we could. When lockdown happened in March, it took us a while to get our heads around the whole online virtual way of scouting, if I'm being honest. We'd all the sections started off posting different challenges on our group Facebook page and our section WhatsApps, but we had no real idea of how many youth members were actually taking part. So we eventually decided to give Zoom a go. And again, being 100% honest, the first meeting was very awkward, but we stuck with it. What we found worked for us was we were posting skills videos and challenges midweek, and then we talked about those during our Zoom meetings. So this could be anything from videos on different types of stoves and when to use them and how to pack a rucksack for a hike and all of that kind of thing. Towards the middle of May, I floated the idea of running a solo shield on the weekend that our county shield was supposed to take place. The scouts and scouters in the section loved the idea, so we got together and we drafted an info book with all the different challenges. We posted it up for the kids midweek so that they'd have a few days to get the bits and pieces they need. And we had an opening and a closing ceremony on Zoom with challenges in between. So there was the likes of tent pitching, there was drawing out their perfect campsite, there was different bases like communications, backwoods, emergency skills. One of the challenges was that they had to make a test meal for their families. And we received some of the most amazing photos into our WhatsApp of the kids having a great time with their families at their own family campfires. And to be honest with you, it was kind of the first time the families really got to see what their kids do at Scouts, and it opened up their eyes big time, and it gave us an awful lot of support across all sections. We had a few more Zoom sessions after that, but our next big event was actually something that came from the youth members themselves. Two of our guys just wanted to organise and run a virtual camp. Again, we had an opening and a closing ceremony on Zoom, and the activities that they came up with was the likes of a virtual orienteering, there was woggle making, and loads of other bits and pieces. The two guys even organised bringing in a guest speaker to talk about mindfulness for the closing ceremony, which was fantastic. That obviously the guest speaker was also a scouter in a different group. Soon thereafter, we were advised that we could get back to physical scouting. So we had a scouters meeting to make sure that we as an adult team were comfortable with this. We trashed out all the different safety protocols to include usual stuff like the hand sanitizers, the face masks, the social distancing. We also decided to split our scouts and scouters into two separate groups. We called one group Alpha, we called the second group Omega. And we also decided that all physical program was going to have to be outside. Even if we got the opportunity to use our community centre, we were only going to be able to use very small numbers, and we said, listen, we're an outdoor organisation, let's put the Outback in Scout. So our group, speaking to all our sections, insisted that all Scouters do the National Youth Council's online course, the DCYA NYC COVID induction training. This had to be on file with our group leader before any Scouter was allowed to return to physical scouting. Our first section meeting back with the kids was actually in the car park of our community centre, with Alpha group in at one end and Omega group at the very far end, all spaced out. And we discussed at length with the kids what they kind of got up to over the, the virtual stuff, what they liked, what they didn't like, bring in the whole plan to review. But we also spoke at great length with them about the safety protocols, about how serious they were going to have to take them and all of that kind of stuff. So for the next few weeks then, we actually went on some short hikes with little program activities built into each one. So we weren't kind of inundating it with too much kind of heavy stuff. It was all about fun. It was all about meeting up. It was about getting comfortable going outside because, as one of the other speakers said, they had nothing else going on at this stage. They'd been out of school for months. They couldn't meet up with their friends. This was the first time that some of these guys and gals had actually a chance to meet up with their friends. So our first kind of headline activity, we did an overnight bivvy up Bree Hill, which is not far from where I live, and there's a Quilcha forest up there, and we set out an orienteering course. They had to do shelter building, they had to do stove cooking, and loads of other stuff, which was absolutely fantastic. We trucked along then with more outdoor stuff, and we finished our scouting year in August. Again, like Joe was saying, we decided to keep going as much as we could. I know our Beavers and Cub sections kind of shut down towards the end of June, early July, gave a little bit of a break and then hit full steam ahead in September, but the Scout section kept going. And we had an end of year camp, again following very strict safety protocols. Alpha and Omega, the two groups, were still split up. Everybody had to have their own tent. Each tent was spaced more than 2 meters apart. And yes, there was an awful lot more work involved, and yes, it was logistically a bit of a pain, but the reward for it was fantastic. We ended up doing higher ups in the facility we were staying in. We hiked to a local beach so the kids could go swimming. We had our first campfire in a long time, and we got to play plenty of wide games. After that, we then took a couple of weeks off and we started back in September with a registration day. And I have to say, not one section lost a single youth member, not one section lost a single adult member. And basically, as kids moved up from section to section, they were replenished in both Cubs and Beavers from people that were on our waiting list. Scout section is almost at capacity. We have a decent number of ventures as well anyway. So at this stage then the scout section said, right, we start bringing back in more scouty type stuff and more in a scouty way. So we basically brought back in the normal patrol system, but what we did is we made sure family groupings were kept together, and we also made sure that there was designated scouters assigned to each of the 3 patrols, so at least there was no crossovers and all of that kind of thing. So for the next couple of weeks after we started back, we were given the use, and for many years we've been given the use of a farm that's owned by 2 of our leaders, our scouters. And so we did kind of normal program stuff, a bit of pioneering, a bit of tent pitching, that kind of thing. Again, following all the protocols with hand sanitizer, the face masks, all of that kind of thing. We did another overnight bivvy up Bree Hill. We built in different activities this time, including what we called pop-up pit pioneering, which meant was we gave them sisal. We told them that they had to find dead wood around and they had to make gadgets up in the forest and completely from scratch. There was an awful lot of fun had with that. Again, we had a kind of a mini campfire later on that night and all of that kind of stuff. Our last physical activity before lockdown number 2 came into place was the POW camp organised by the National Scout Reps. I have to say this was one of the most amazing camping experiences I've taken part in a long time, because we were given obviously the information pack and we had to get all the equipment ready in advance. But we had no idea what the challenges were. We didn't have to come with the program because the national reps had built up the program, and there was an awful lot of excitement over the weekend as the POW team were uploading the challenges, and you could feel the excitement building. You know, the next challenge is going to be uploaded at 11 o'clock, and the kids were anxiously waiting for it. And again, to follow all the safety protocols, we were in a large outdoor facility. We had our 3 patrols very much split up. They were able to talk to each other, but it was kind of shouting at each other from a distance rather than talking. But in fairness to the kids, they followed everything we asked them to do, the hand sanitizing on a constant basis, even though they were working outside when they were doing the pioneering challenges and they might be coming close together. They were wearing the masks at all stages, which was brilliant. We as scouters were kind of taking things to the next level. One of our lady scouters was going into the ladies' toilets. I was going into the gents, and we were cleaning all the touch points every hour or so. So basically the flushers, the door handles, the taps, all of that kind of stuff. And this was a great kind of last physical activity before lockdown number 2. We then went back onto Zoom, but because we'd gotten comfortable with that during the first lockdown, and because we figured out what worked for us, which was a mixture of, you know, putting up challenges so we would have something to talk about rather than just turning up and saying, right lads, what will we do? You always have to have the plan. And that worked really well for us. And one of the first things that happened was 2 more of our scouts, 2 ladies this time, said, Dano, we would like to run the next virtual camp. So they decided to call it the Last Dance. The activities that they came up with, again, they came up with a full information booklet with kit lists and everything. So they were making knot boards, they were doing origami, they had guys and gals making scout stoves. They'd done a scavenger hunt, but it had to be done on a hike with your family, which again was bringing the family element back into it and getting them back outside again. And then as in from last week, we started back again, physical scouting, again in our groups, very much separated out. And this week we'll be hopefully doing some more pioneering. We are hoping to finish up and keep going till the 12th of December, where we're hoping to do a section hike down in the Raven Point in Carriclough, and hopefully have an investiture ceremony to invest our new members. Overall, what we found was there was 3 key ingredients that we needed for our group to scout through COVID. The first was we needed enthusiastic scouts. And when I say scouts, I mean Beaver Scouts, Cub Scouts, Scouts, Ventures, Rovers. The second part was we needed willing scouters, and the third part is we needed supportive parents. And thankfully for us, we had an abundance of all 3. And basically that's how we got through scouting through COVID.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dano. It is fantastic to hear the results back. And I think what's particularly positive is the positive scouting, the positive results you've achieved from, with your youth members, and particularly our youth today, I suppose, and our youth after all the COVID and everything else, they need scouting now more than ever. They need that social reaction. They've grew up with, the hugs and the and everything else, and that social reaction is very, very important for our youth members. And I suppose from a mental health point of view as well, that social element within our within camping and everything else has been fantastic. But I suppose from listening to what you were talking about there, going through there, Dano, the camping, again, a fantastic achievement. Your structure within the group, that you had a structure, I think a bit like Joe and the rest of the gang, that you had a structure within your meetings, be it online, be it not online. Did you found that kind of give you kind of a bit of a flow in your each night when you had that structure? I suppose that you had good planning and a good structure in place, that you ran your meetings kind of as you would as if you were on face to face.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, we're well used to planning. The kids are well used to planning, and if we didn't have the plan, this just would not have worked as well as it did. Because of the challenges that COVID has presented, yes, it was a bit more work, but a point touched on by a couple of people here this evening already. It was a huge benefit to not only the youth members, but also us scouters from a mental health perspective. I mean, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to continue working full time from home, but I'm 34 weeks at home now. My only outlet is when I get to go scouting. I've got the best walked dogs in Ireland, by the way. But to be honest with you, it was the amount of parents that have come to us and said, listen, we're so appreciative of the extra effort put in and to give the kids that positive outlet. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things I was a little bit nervous of when we had our kind of pre-planning meeting before going back to physical scouting was, well, what way would the parents view this? And they were queuing up. They couldn't get the kids back quick enough. The virtual stuff, we had about 70% attendance, and as soon as we got back physical, that went up to 95 to 100% for everything we did. Yeah.
Well done, and I think with what we're doing in scouting and what you're doing, you're creating an element to allow our youth members to be children. That you're giving them that space to allow them be children and be themselves. And I think that's everywhere they go at the moment. They're saying you can't do this. They're all being boxed into areas that where you can't do it. And they come into Scouts, and actually we allow them be youth members. And I think that's key, guys, to what we're doing, and well done. And we can look going forward. There's a lot of, we can look at all the negatives from COVID, but you've all spoken so well about all the positives that we can take from scouting. And you look at I suppose the element you touched on there, Dano, on families actually realising, from doing our home camping, that for families now all of a sudden they realise what a little bit more of what we do in Scouts. And particularly I love the one there about the test meals and the kids cooking the test meals at home. Absolutely fantastic. And we look at the other benefits. We have our training. We're gone online with our training. We've all taken major steps forward as an organisation, as a group, and as counties. The positivities of counties supporting, and it's just it's wonderful. Fair play to you. I suppose I'm going to hand you over to Patsy there for the Q&A. I know there's for anyone that has any questions, you just bang them into the Q&A session there, guys. And there are a lot of questions there. We're not going to get them all answered tonight. We will cover a few of them. And for any questions we don't get tonight, we will send them around to all of the Scouters after the meeting tonight or in the next day or two, and we will get them all answered, and we will share them back through the provincial offices, and they will be available on the website as well, as will this webinar, our little campfire chat. That'll be all available on the live as well on our website in the next day or two. Okay, so over to you, Patsy.
Thank you very much, Noel, and thank you very much to our four presenters. I think everybody will agree that they've done a fantastic job. We have quite a number of questions, as Noel said. We're probably not going to be able to get through them all. Some are specific to some of the presenters. Some of them are just general questions, so I'll just take them as they kind of come. David, I think this one might be for you. What percentage of youth members took part in the online activities? We tried the WhatsApp challenges, but only got about 50 to 60% of the interaction. So.
Yeah, well, we've been very fortunate, I think. As I said, we didn't really miss a meeting and we kept the continuity. So there wasn't a case that they had, a break and then it was an effort to get back in. So we never really kind of lost a whole lot. We didn't take, percentage numbers and so on, but we were very close to, full capacity on all of our meetings and events and activities. Really were,
Thanks, David.
Okay, thanks, David. Right, the next one, probably for Amy, I'd say, hi, what was involved in the STEM challenge? You mentioned the STEM challenge, Amy. Would you be able to elaborate on that, perhaps, maybe a little bit more, please?
Yes, the STEM challenge was designed by Scouters in Omagh and Downpatrick, and they opened it to anyone in our province. So that's 6 weeks, and if you completed all 6 weeks, you got a badge. So I know 1 week was throw an egg out of a window using household items to not get the egg to smash on the ground. So it was different challenges like that, things that the kids could do at home. There was one about lighting fire without using a lighter or matches. There was a lot of different sort of very basic Scout things mixed in with some sciencey sort of experiments, things to keep kids involved, and things that sort of appeal more, not more so, but that we find appealed more so to our Scouts than our stay-at-home challenges. So it was quite interesting.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you very much, Amy. Okay, question for Joe. Where did you get the recommendations for youths that they were below the top line recommendations?
When they came out, they were on the Department of Youth Affairs website, but within sort of a few days as well, Scouting Ireland did kind of put it on their website and their Facebook, the Youth Affairs, like sort of the breakdown of what you could do. Now, it wasn't, I suppose, when they put it on their website, it wasn't as such their own, but it, like by association and the way they highlighted it, these were the guidelines that we were going to be running from, but they hadn't updated the pathway to scouting. Was really how we read it, and it did come, it was said that way, but it was just, I suppose the whole idea there was that when people saw the top line government lockdown and level this, that and the other, it was like, no, you can't meet in groups of 15 or whatever it was. I haven't got it to hand exactly, but when you actually saw the Youth Affairs guidelines, it was clear that you could have, at level 3 and 4, you could have 15, I think off the top of my head now, I think it was 15 indoors and outdoors. So I suppose to some degree it was a little bit confusing, and we really needed to get that message out, because by not getting the message out, like even it's the confidence, I suppose, that the parents and the Scouters were having. And I would have, in that first day or two, I would have had a number of messages. How can we have a meeting indoors, Joe? Like, and now, like, I just referred it back and shared exactly what was online from the Department of Youth Affairs and Scouting Ireland. So, and once we did that, it wasn't questioned, if you know what I mean. Like, there was no like, geez, you can't do that, Joe. It was clear in black and white what we could and couldn't do, like. So that's where I got the information anyway.
Yeah, well done, Joe. I suppose what did make it confusing, there's always a bit of a lag. Kind of the government made their announcement of the levels, then we had to wait for the Department of Youth to kind of tidy up their end of it and bring it all together, and that usually created a little bit of again, Scouting Ireland got it from the department to bring it on to publish it. It usually, it created that a little bit of a drag there, and that, in its own right created confusion, but a little bit of it. But that's just the way the system is working. Okay.
Yeah, it was another group leader in Galway that I was struggling to communicate that what we were governed by and what the top line were slightly different. and his explanation was what I actually sent to parents. I plagiarized what he gave me, but his explanation was like that the schools aren't like, if you were to take the top line guidelines and then look at a school, well, they're in complete contradiction with each other if you did that. But the schools are governed by the Department of Education kind of thing, you know what I mean? So just like that, we were governed by the Department of Youth Affairs. And once I put that out, there was no confusion at all anymore. Like.
Yeah, brilliant. Well done, Joe. Thank you. Okay, Patsy.
That's great. Thank you very much. The next one then. Yeah. Interested to hear from one of the speakers about doing risk assessments or protocols for outdoor meetings. This group said they are yet to get back. They presume that it's a questionnaire initially and then track and trace log. Is there anything else that you'd recommend, or how did you go about doing that? So does anybody want to take that one?
Yeah, David.
Yeah, I'm happy to deal with that. Well, I can just tell you from the experience that we have in our group of what we did in terms of conducting it. First of all, we did conduct a risk assessment. We kind of had a survey among ourselves as scouts to see what could go wrong, where could it go wrong, how might it go wrong, and how can we guard against it, and so on. So that was the first and foremost. But what we did also was, and we did it at a county level, we shared it across the board, was that we established a couple of template documents that each group could use and make their own and so on. And that was really informative for parents, for youth members, and for scouters as well. Before we return to physical meetings, what we did was we had a scouters briefing meeting, so that everybody was fully aware, and they had to attend that meeting in advance of participating in the program section meetings, because we wanted to make sure everybody was singing from the same hymn sheet. So that's the way in which we kind of mitigated against a lot of the risks that we identified. Of course, we had the usual stuff in terms of the hand sanitizer stations that we had to bring in, and the signage and all that kind of stuff. In advance of each physical meeting, we sent out an online form. So it was a Google Doc form that had to be completed to confirm that the youth members, and indeed the scouters, had no symptoms, hadn't been advised to restrict their movements and all that kind of stuff. So that had to be done in advance. And then we have a contact tracing log for each meeting, so that we have a record of who arrived into the meeting. And of course, one of the things we did there to try and minimise risk and minimise the thing is about staggering times of arrivals and so on, but also asking parents not to come in to if they're pulling up outside to stay in their car or not to leave their car, I suppose, so that we don't have to have that added number of contacts that we have to keep a record of and record and so on. So that's how we kind of, I suppose, conducted risk assessments, planned for mitigating against them, and then how on an ongoing basis we manage the contact tracing within our group.
Yeah, brilliant. I suppose you took the worst possible scenario and kind of fed it back from there, David. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, the thing for us is that it was done by communicating to everybody at every stage, and that information, document that we provided for our scouters, for our adult, our youth members and their parents, was really key to getting that message across.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, David. Right, maybe Amy, you might be able to take this one. Our Beavers and Cubs didn't even try doing anything online. The Scout section adapted to online straight away, and we did kayaking as a socially distant activity during the summer when we could. The ventures are only trying now that the Scouts have moved up. In my opinion, there was a lack of interest from the Scouters, as all the kids in every section were asking to do some scouting. So did anybody else experience this, and how have you overcome it? If you did, we still haven't. So it's about trying to motivate Scouters, I suppose, to try and get back and answer any of the queries or concerns that they may have, and instill some confidence into them. So that's, it can be quite a big job. So how did you manage that, Amy, or was that an obstacle, we say, in your group?
Well, first of all, you guys don't know me, but it's very hard to say no to me. So it is. So when I said to the Scouters, this is what we're doing, I've already started it, I've got the ball rolling, you're not going to let the children down, are you? They all went, no, of course not. No, my Scouters are brilliant. There's a team of 10 of us, but it's a small group, so that's plenty. But I do beavers and Scouts. When the pandemic hit, I did ventures as well. I don't anymore, as well as group leader. So I think because I'm actually physically there a lot, and I am very close to all of the leaders, like I said, it was constant communication. It was constantly, what do you think of this? Not just I'm telling you what to do, but do you think that you would enjoy doing this with the children? Do you think that this is something that you could do, that I'm not asking you to do something that you're unable or unwilling or just too far out of your comfort zone? For me personally, technology is not my thing. We didn't really do a lot of Zoom. We didn't do Cahoots. I know about all these things. That wasn't for me. None of the other Scouters were really very interested in it either. We did eventually do a little bit of Zoom, and it worked with the oldest ones. With our beavers, it was the parents more so than Scouters from our end. It didn't take a huge amount of planning. It did put things out. It was just keeping on top of it, to remember to check in with parents, and it was parents. And the Scouters, we didn't have much of a problem. When there was a slight not safety concern, but there was, Amy, how are we going to do this safely? How are we going to, I've been hammocking twice, once with the Scout section, once with the Venture section. That was, Amy, how are we going to do this? So I took a good bit of the responsibility for the risk assessments, but I didn't do it on my own. I drew up one and I took it and I said, what do you think? Is there more risks? Do you agree with these risks? Is this something that you're willing to do? Because I wasn't going to try and force people to do something that they didn't feel comfortable with. And I think that for us was the big thing, that although I'm very excitable and want to do everything now, I did ask the leaders, is this something you're comfortable with? Is this something you feel like you can do safely? And if the answer is no, the answer is no. And you think of something else, and that's how we kept them on board. It wasn't because they weren't being forced to do something that they didn't want to do, they didn't feel confident, they didn't maybe have the time doing. Their whole lives had changed, their family dynamics had changed, everything has changed. You just have to be mindful, you have to speak to the leaders. If there's not engagement, why? Just sit down and have an open conversation with your Scouters. Why is there no engagement? How can I support you? Or do you need to step back? Or what is the issue? You can't read other people's minds, so it's communication. Like everybody's been saying, it is communication.
Yeah, well done, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, one for Dano. Dano, is there anything that you would do differently now with the benefit of hindsight, or looking forward to the future? Have you learned anything from your experience to date that you might consider doing differently or didn't go right for you in the first time round?
To be honest with you, I think if we had to do this all over again, and if I had the benefit of hindsight, I probably would have started with the Zoom sooner than what we did. The trick with Zoom is not to just turn up on a meeting and expect, right, lads, what are we going to do? Because you will get tumbleweed. You will get, literally, you're going to be doing the talking. But the way we figured it, as I said before, was posting challenges so that there was something to discuss. And I mean, Joe made a reference to it as well. You know, you have a start, you try to have a meeting structure, you have your start, you have your end. You try to keep it as scouty as you can. You try to keep it as close to what they would be used to when we were in the hall. And yeah, no, I think in hindsight, I would try that a little bit sooner than what we did. That being said, like what we did do when we did get to speak to the parents, initially we didn't know how many were doing the initial challenges and that, but when we got to speak to the parents, we did find out that yes, most of them actually had been doing it, but we just had no confirmation of that back because it was kind of like a one-way street. So yeah, doing Zoom sooner and trying to make it work.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dano. Joe, as regards youth members, have you lost many youth members in your own group?
I suppose we may have lost a couple, one or two here and there. To be honest, I believe that the youth members that we lost would have been, and I don't think we've lost them. I think it's more of they're in a household that has maybe somebody that's vulnerable or has an illness in the house, and I know that to be the case in some of them. Now, obviously, there's probably one or two where parents have a worry or are just not confident enough to send them, and that's like our pathway back to scouting is all about. It's up to them whether they want to return. There's no pressure on the leaders, the kids, but like our scout section had 25. I'm counting the scout section because that's my section, but we had 25 scouts when we went into lockdown. We came out of lockdown with 25. our venture section went in and came out the same number. It might have been 1 or 2 in Beavers that I think we lost, and I know definitely that it was a vulnerable household and safety concerns for them. So and again, we lost a couple of leaders, but again, that was purely down to their home situation. We've gained a few, so we're pretty much the same as what we were like. And our engagement is like, that's the crucial thing here. Some people are like, I think some groups are worried that they're not going to get the engagement back from the youth members and everything. Like 25 scouts and you get 24 signed up to our very first camp. We went out and we had hammocks and we had tents. We made up the right number that we needed, but 24 out of 25, and that just shows you like they wanted to get out there. Like, and sometimes it's maybe the confidence of I'm not saying just leaders, but it's the in some cases it can be the confidence. Like, I suppose if anyone knows me, like if I put a point across, I'd like to think that people will be fully confident in what I've just said. And I think that when you portray the confidence and you know that what you've put in place, the protocols, the safety measures you put in place are safe, then I think the parents believe that too. They buy into that element of it, like that you are confident, well, they're confident, that kind of thing. And that is, there are going to be people that are not confident, and we can't do anything about that. We can do the best we can, and proof is in how many are taking part. Proof is in how much good feedback we're getting from parents as to, thank you very much for taking our son and doing what you do with them, like, and or their daughter and everything. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of, I suppose,
yeah.
thought.
I think the parents know now more than ever, Joe, the importance of getting the youth members and getting our young adults out there together. And I think that comes across from all of you there tonight, guys, that all of the parents, you know, we see it, we touched on the mental health of our children, and also I think Dano mentioned the mental health of our adults. It's so important. You know, there's pressures on people now that had never, you know, they were in secure jobs all their life. All of a sudden COVID came, their businesses are gone. They're in a totally different world. So, you know, it's there, you know, the association and the Scout group is now, for a lot of areas and a lot of little communities, is now more important than ever for providing that kind of social structure, that interaction, and creating that family time and family element, you know, within an area. So well done to you all. I think we're going to leave that question as the last question. We said we'd stay within the hour, and we're just running a little bit over. I've really enjoyed tonight, guys. I've learned so much. I know Joe told a little story to me earlier on about doing online uniform inspections. I let him share that with you on another day. That's for webinar number 3. To Amy, I love your style of, you know, I'm the group leader now. I want 3 volunteers. I want you, and you. So it's amazing what you've all brought together, guys, and how you put it all together, and really well done. I suppose from a point of view, guys, to you as attendees, well done. We've over 100 attendees that has joined us tonight, and we thank you all. There's a couple of things I'd like you to do before we leave. First of all, we are planning on running more webinars, and we'd like to do this on a regular basis. And what I would like to do within the Q&A session there, or the Q&As, is just, if there's a future webinar or a future talk, and it doesn't have to be Scout related, it could be something on mental health, it could be something on finances, it could be, you know, there's lots of things out there we all need at the moment. There's needs within communities. If it's legal, we'll run it. Okay. I'm not showing you how to make poutine or anything like that. That's not even over. We'd make a good crack at it here from the West. We're not going there, okay? But let's go with something, you know, and we're up for it. We'll try it, okay? So if you pop that into the Q&A area there, guys. And the one other thing I'd like you to do, I suppose, you know, we'd like to get your feedback. You know, was this a positive experience for you? So if you feel if it was a positive and a good experience and a benefit to you and your group, pop in number 5, and if you know, so we're going to score it on a level of 1 to 5. So if you felt it was something very positive, just pop in the number 5 in the Q&A. You don't have to put anything else, just pop in the number. And if you felt it wasn't much use to you, just pop in somewhere between 1 and 4, okay? And we'll go from there. So the Q&As, we can leave it open there for a minute or two, guys, and just get the stuff in there. If you don't get an opportunity, or if you have a little thought on it in the next few days, maybe something you'd like to see ran, you can always pop, you know, it's the usual on the bottom of all the emails you get. If you're not sure, contact your PSO or GSF. So the same applies tonight. If you have some ideas or some thoughts on this, contact your PSO. We're here to support you guys, and the GSFs, of course. We're all here to support you and LP. So on that note, I'd like to thank from the bottom of my heart all our presenters and our fellow Scouters. I'd like to thank my team, James, and I'd like to thank Patsy. And we'll see you all again soon, guys. Thank you.